Hello, I am so excited to have you here for another episode. I have the pleasure of having Marvin be with us today. He is going to share some wonderful insights that he has learned on his own journey of becoming more healthy. Now, he's a podcaster himself, so he's going to share the insights that he's learned on his journey from all the guests that he's had on his show. So today's show is a little bit different, and it's going to be so exciting to hear where his takeaways have been, what he has learned, and how he has applied all of the lessons to his own life and how he see other apply it to theirs. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Marvin on in a minute. Stay tuned. You're in for a treat. Welcome and hello. I'm so excited to have Marvin with us. Let me read you his intro before we say hello to Marvin. Marvin B is the host of the popular Uncle Marv's Unhealthy podcast, where he shares his personal journey of overcoming unhealthy habits and lifestyle choices. With over 25 years of experience in the IT industry, Marvin is no stranger to the challenges of balancing work, health, and personal life. Through his own trial and error, Marvin discovered the power of functional medicine, mindfulness practices, and technology enabled wellness solutions. He now uses his podcast as a platform to share these insights and inspire others to take a holistic approach to their health. On his podcast, Marvin brings on a wide range of expert guests, from nutritionists and fitness trainers to mental health professionals and sleep specialists. His engaging interview style and deep industry knowledge allows him to extract practical tips and strategies that listeners can immediately apply to their own lives. His goal is to empower listeners to break free from unhealthy habits and achieve lasting well being. So, without further ado, I'm saying hello to Marvin. Hi, Marvin. I'm so excited that you're here with me today.
Hello, Emma. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well, and thank you for being here. I'm so excited that you're here. We're going to have a fun conversation with all the fun takeaways that you have learned yourself and will help others do the same. Right?
That's what we're going to try to do.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That's the intention anyway. So Marvin, so interesting that you started in IT. And so you have a full-blown career before you became a podcaster. So tell us a little bit about that experience and what led to your wellness journey and then to becoming a podcaster.
Well, I'm going to zigzag a little through the history here
Yes.
because I have actually had a podcast for 7 years through the IT business. So that came first, and this new podcast I started just recently.
Gotcha.
And the reason that I started that is because I've spent 27 years in IT. But most of those years, I was actually active, working out, playing basketball, eating right. Well, I shouldn't say eating right, but I was working out enough that I could eat and still look and feel healthy.
Mm.
And IT technically is one of those types of jobs where you're just kind of sitting around a lot. But I have a type of business where I would go out and see clients. So I was always active, always, walking, moving computers, moving clients from one office to another. So it wasn't that big a deal. So a few years ago, I quit basketball and I said, you know what? I've spent the first 40 plus years of my life always doing something, whether it was football, basketball, track, running, softball. And I said, you know what? I'm done. Who am I trying to impress?
Oh gosh.
And I said, I'm good. I should be fine. And then a few years, the belly starts getting a little bigger, a little bit harder to get up in the morning, a little sluggish and tired throughout the day. And I finally got to the point where I said, I guess I got to start doing something. But then the hard part is trying to find out what I could do that I would enjoy and that would work. Then it was trying to find a way to be accountable because telling my wife I want to eat healthy just wasn't working.
Mm.
Even though she had spent a lot of years in the weight loss industry, what she did for her patients in the weight loss wasn't working for me.
Oh, how interesting.
So I said, I got to go out and start finding what's going to work. So 2 years ago, I actually tried to reach out to people and talk to them about what was working and what wasn't working. And I thought, you know what? I need to make this a podcast so that I could find a way to force myself to be accountable with
Ah,
the information that I learned. And a podcast would be a good way to get guests, uh, knowledgeable people, experts to come on the show and share what works for them. So it was kind of a twofold thing.
mhm.
And so I started that about 8 months ago. And here we are doing better, not 100%, but better.
I love it. So that's fascinating. So you had this whole thing going on. You were already a podcaster. You were doing your things. For some reason, you chose not to continue doing sports, and you were like, "I'm good with all the sports. I've tried them all already. I've enjoyed them. I'm good." But then you're like, "Wait a second. How do I get my activity in if I'm not playing sports and I'm not moving clients around or working the same way that I used to?"
Right.
Makes sense. And I was like, "Okay, I have to figure out how to do this differently so that it works for me." And let me tell you something, as we get a little older, it's not so easy, right? Because
No, it is not.
yes, so whatever you did what we did when we were younger and it worked, like, immediately, and I was like, "Okay, I had to put a little bit more effort for it to do the same things," right?
Well, it's a lot of different things. So, I took off basically about 4 to 5 years before I started getting serious again about working out, eating right. So I
Nice.
would get up in the morning and, start to do a little run or start to do some
Mhm.
jumping rope. And, every few days something would hurt and I'd have to stop. And it
Ah,
was just something like, okay, I've been an athlete all my life. Things shouldn't hurt,
mm,
but they did. So obviously I had to make a change. And I wanted to find a way that I could do things that, you see on the YouTube videos, do these 10 things, eat what you want. I knew they were wrong, but for a long time in this world, we got by with eating healthy and not getting, in my case, I'm going to say fat, um, without having to work out and, CrossFit and do all that stuff. So something in this world has changed
mm,
to where we have to work harder to look and feel better. So I wanted to find ways that, okay, how can I reverse that and go back to what, in the 70s and 80s, I didn't have to work this hard. Now, some of it's my age, but I think a lot of it is the things that we do in life now with our food and our
agreed.
exercise and our lifestyle and our environment.
Yeah, yeah, I'm hearing the knowledge that you've gotten that you've learned recently beginning to come through, I love
Yep.
it. So why don't we jump in with the first thing that you've kind of learned or able to take away from the experts that you started working with or rather interviewing and learning from. So I'm seeing that one of the things was you could look great and feel great, but maybe you're still not healthy. Maybe there's still something wrong. Right.
Right.
So that's very, very interesting concept because usually if we look great and feel great, again, we don't like what's there to worry about then, right? If
Yep.
like, how do you know that something's not right?
Yeah, that was one thing. Now, I took it from the other perspective because I named the show Unhealthy for a reason,
Right.
because we all hear about the things that we can do from the healthy standpoint, but what about the things that we're doing unhealthy that are either canceling out or battling the things that we're doing healthy?
Yes.
And one of the first things I realized that it's not really about how you look and how you feel, because there are many people that we can see out every day that look great. They look fantastic, and yet they're unhealthy.
Right.
You know?
What are they doing to look that way? It's not very healthy.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So either that or they're still, running up and getting sick, on a constant basis and things. So I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
it's got to be more than just how we look and feel. There's got to be some other stuff. So that was the first thing I started learning when I was talking to everybody, where they would talk about the same things as me. They were doing all the things that they thought was they were supposed to be doing. And for some reason, it either wasn't working or they would do all of that stuff. They would lose the weight, they would lose the inches, but still be miserable.
Mm. Okay, that's
So I'm
instant.
like,
Of
okay,
course.
there's
Right.
something we got to pay attention to.
Right. Right. Well, so with that piece of information or awareness, did you come across some other things that were the unhealthy things are that people should not be doing?
Well, yeah, I'm getting a bunch of those. Goes- and what's funny is they're really all the things that we've been hearing for the past several years. They're all about, get good sleep. They're all about change your diet, but not in the standpoint of, dieting as we know it. Diet should be just our regular food that we eat on a daily basis.
Right.
And getting away from, everybody knows to get away from sugar. Everybody knows that you should eat less calories, but it goes deeper than that. It goes into what is it that you're actually eating? What's going into the food that we're eating? There's so many things that are considered healthy or
Mhm.
low fat that they're really not. They may not have all the calories here, but they've got all these chemicals and ingredients that are still leading to our unhealthiness. Whether it's, you know, I don't want to say too many things, outright naming them, but the high fructose corn syrup, all the chemicals that if you look at a food label, why is this acid in my food? So that's a part of it too, where we've kind of conditioned our bodies to accept these unhealthy things.
Mhm.
And then we try to be healthy, our body's got to get rid of all that crap
You know
before.
what's really interesting? So one of the things that I've learned recently, I'm also a wellness junkie, right? So of course, my profession is mental health. I specialize in working with couples therapy, and all of that. But this is my cup of tea on the side, right? Like learning all of the wellness things. And so one of the things that I learned recently was that oils are actually worse than sugar for your body, because the sugar you potentially could get get o- get rid of, you could release from your body. The oils actually stick to you, and
Right.
it takes I forget what the number of years was, like years and years and years for whatever oil you took in, like bad oil, to for it to really to release or get out of your body, for you to detox from that oil. So all of it, like when you go through a drive-through and you get French fries, it's not just the potatoes, it's like the fried, but why? Because it's fried in that nasty oil. So there's a bunch of oils, and I'm not gonna, this is not the type of podcast, right? But so a bunch of different oils that, for those of you who are interested, who are listening, do the research. There's a bunch of oils that when you eat those, it's impossible to get them out of your body, and that's really, really, really toxic. That's like the worst thing that you could eat, even worse than sugar.
Yeah.
And sugar is the devil.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So go right ahead. Yeah.
yeah. So like you said, learning those things are what's really going to help us.
Mhm.
However, the second point that I think I put down there is that the journey is different for everyone. Our bodies, yes, we're all kind of built the same. We have the same organs, but because of how we've lived, the things that work for some may not work for all. I learned this after one of my friends gave me a whole bunch of keto stuff
Mm.
when I first announced that. Yeah, I like to lose a few pounds off the belly here. And she said, okay, well, here's a whole bunch of keto stuff. And I tried it. And it just didn't ever work.
Mhm.
And it took talking to some other people where they said, well, keto may work for some, but it just may not work for you.
Yep.
And I learned, not to poo poo on any of the programs out there. Every program works for somebody. You
That's right.
just got to find what works for you.
Yep. For sure. There are so many different things that affects who we are. Just if we have these type of enzymes more than others, we could digest the food better than somebody else, right? Some people can't process coffee and caffeine, and some people thrive on it. Like there's actually enzymes and genes for this stuff. It's like what, right? So there's all kinds of information out there in terms of like we are very specific machines. And so just to learn more about ourselves, because like you said, what might work for you might not work for me and vice versa, correct? So
Right. Yeah.
excellent. So what is about your journey that's made your journey special? You said it's about 8 months in. What are some other things that you've tried so far that you feel like, okay, I might be on the right track with this one? Like keto, not so good. So what else?
Well, the biggest thing is maintaining consistency in the changes
Yes.
we make. I think one of the things that we do is, we'll do something and we have this tendency to believe that if it doesn't work in a week, well, then it must not be working. And I'm learning that no, my body didn't get this way in a week. My
Right.
body's been on this earth for many, many years. And
Mhm.
so it will take time to reverse the effects of what I've done to it, especially over the last few years. For the
Right.
first part of my life, I was working out, I was, active and stuff. Well, being inactive for 4 to 5 years, you know, that accumulates.
Yes.
So it may take me a good 4 to 5 months, if not another 4 to 5 years to reverse what I've let my body do. So, changing up the diet, changing what I drink, those were kind of the first things. But I'm doing them kind of in baby steps,
Yes.
not trying to change everything at once because I think that kind of is an overload to our system.
Mm.
And you have to make the changes, or for me, I had to make the changes gradually and allow my body to adjust to all the things that I was going to start making it do.
Lovely. Very good. One of the things that I've been playing with is sleep. That's like a major thing. And I don't know if you done anything with that yet. You mentioned that you had sleep specialists on your podcast. So if you have any good tips, by all means, I want to hear them. But definitely, aside from getting the 7 to 8 hours everybody talks about, right? Just making sure like the whole circadian rhythm, the sleep hygiene before you go to bed, like all the things to make sure that you get good sleep, enough sleep, and why sleep is so important, right? So what do you got? Anything that you've accumulated?
Well, again, a lot of this stuff is what we've heard before. Get your 7 to 9 hours in.
Mhm.
And you mentioned the regimen before you go to bed. A lot of times, and I was so guilty of working up until the time it was, time to go to bed.
Yeah.
Whether I was here at the office, my office is 1,000 yards from my home. So
Mhm.
I could work till late at night and then go home and think, oh, I'll just pop into bed and go to sleep. And then, of course, I'm tossing and turning.
Yeah.
And the wife is, fidgeting. She's like, what is wrong with you? That sort of stuff.
Yep.
So getting into a regimen of winding down before going to bed
Mhm.
was huge for me. Giving myself, at least an hour of no working, no eating, which
Mhm.
was a big thing too. I, go home and eat something before hopping into bed.
Right.
Um, and then
Yeah,
of
right there,
course,
that would do it. That's like all the extra pounds right there.
yeah, yeah, and turning off the TV. Both the wife and I like to watch TV to fall asleep.
Mm,
And I'm getting to the point now where, okay, I'll do it for a few minutes, but at some point, TV's got to go off.
yes.
Got to focus on the sleep and allow your body to do that. And then I found a tracking app. Now, I don't know how good it is because even when the wife's away, the numbers are the same. And so at first I thought, well, it's, tracking her as well if she
Mhm.
moves
That's right.
or if both of us are snoring or talking or getting up and going to the restroom and stuff. But at least having something that is, physical enough for you to look at and see, okay, this is my pattern and this is the percentage of sleep that I'm getting each night. What do I need to do
It's
to raise that percentage? Do I need to sleep another half an hour?
right,
Do I need to find a way to stop myself from snoring? Do I,
right.
all these things. So, uh, the app I think is huge. I did hit 100% sleep the other night.
Yeah. So I totally hear you. Like when I used to track mine, I gave up on it because like you said, it's tracking all these things. My husband's there, the dog's there. It's like, oh, you were moving all night long. No, I wasn't.
Right.
You know, or you were snoring. No, I wasn't. My husband was snoring. Like I was up, I was listening the whole time, and he's the one that's snoring. Okay, like that kind of thing. Oh, you got up. No, I didn't. My husband got up.
Right.
Like so definitely not tracking me. I was like, okay, this is not very, very honed in. I know there's a gazillion million apps and gadgets, right? The Aura rings are really good because then that's tailored to you,
Right.
right? Or the watch. For me, those didn't work because I'm like I can't have anything on me. Everything comes off. So like I'm very sensitive to stimuli, so I couldn't have any devices on me to track. I was like, you know what? I don't need to track. I know if I slept okay or not. I could tell in the morning.
Right.
That's good enough for now,
Yep.
until I get more fancy. I don't know. But yeah, so thank you for all of those. And I love that the point that you made about, okay, so if the percentages are not so good, or if you're not tracking it per se with devices, but in the morning you get up and you're still very tired, even though you were in bed for like all these hours, and supposedly you were sleeping for all of these hours, but you get up very, very tired. Maybe that wasn't the best sleep, right? So how can I improve it? Maybe the room needs to be cooler, or maybe my pillow needs to be thicker or softer or this or that. Like all these little things, right? Until you start hitting like that little sweet spot.
Right. And
Yeah.
it may take some time, but again, consistency, being willing to continue even when you don't think it's working.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so I'm working on my sleep. So let me keep working on my sleep. Let me keep cracking the codes, fine tuning, tweaking, right? And staying on it. Yeah, for sure.
I I
Beautiful.
I like it. I compare it to the game of golf.
Mm,
So, most people that play golf will kind of admit that there are those shots that you hit that you're like, "Oh, that was the shot. That was perfect." But yet you spend the rest of the day, "How do I duplicate that shot?"
right.
And trying to
What
figure
a
out
good
the swing
observation.
and the grass and the angle and then the club, and that's what we do with when it comes to things like sleep and our health.
That's why we say it's a journey and it's not a destination because we're constantly tweaking and fine tuning and getting better,
Yep.
right? So I used to say, which I think that we're all familiar with the phrase practice makes perfect, but there is no such thing, right? So somebody corrected me or rather instructed me and said, how about practice makes progress? And I was like, ooh, so I've been quoting this guy for a while now. I love that. Yes, we just keep getting better and better, right?
Yep.
Very good. So now you mentioned that part of your journey when we were talking about yourselves and in your the material you sent me that there was emotional eating also as part of this thing, right? So any thoughts about that? As a therapist, of course, I understand this concept, but for our audience, what have your learnings been and your takeaways? What you're working on with that? What have you learned?
Well, this is one of those places where I actually had another expert on, and I should probably let your listeners know I myself, not even close to an expert. I don't pretend to be an expert. This is just my journey that I'm documenting, talking to other people. But Renee Jones is a coach that came on a while
Mhm.
back, and in my mind, I always associated emotional eating with, the Lifetime movie or the Hallmark movie where, the person sitting at home in bed, upset that their date, stood them up or something along those lines. But emotional eating is so much more than that. Stress is an emotion.
That's right.
So if we're stressed at work or stressed in relationships or anything else, that affects how we eat. How we entertain ourselves is another thing. So again, I'm a sports guy. So I watch a lot of sports on TV,
Mhm.
and we're just so conditioned that if we're in front of the TV, there's got to be a bucket of wings or some fries or some burgers or soda or beer that just goes along with that. Well,
Man, you know
that's
how to watch TV. I was gonna say popcorn, but man, you know what you're doing over there.
it is sports, so it's either going to the bar or trying to duplicate the bar at the home.
Hmm.
So,
Right,
uh,
right.
so that all plays a part of it as well. So this whole emotional part of our eating. Now, you wouldn't think that sitting in front of the TV watching sports is part of the emotional, part of it, but how are you feeling when you're sitting in front of the TV or you're out with your pals? That's all part of the emotion. You've got this adrenaline, you've got the dopamine where you're happy and excited and you're just eating away. So that was something that I learned, that emotional eating is not just that sad ice cream
Right.
filled moment that we
Oh,
think.
absolutely, yeah. I love that example because usually that's not how I hear the example of emotional eating. So that's a nice other addition to it. And yeah, you're making the connection to this is how I have fun. This is how I enjoy things. This is how I connect with people. This is how you watch sports. Like this is how it was exciting. And all of those even positive feelings get all connected to food, right? And so you need to have the food to create a whole experience and to have all the fun, the connection, the assignment, the whatever, the experience. And so all those associations are being made. And there's emotional eating involved in that. That's interesting. I love that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Or if you're working late, throw in another pot of coffee, order a pizza. It's just part of
Right.
the thing that we have to adjust
Hmm.
as part of the emotional part of what we do as it relates to the eating.
Yes. I'm going to add another angle on this, and that is that we use food for self regulation, right? To moderate our feelings. So if we are feeling anything that's sad, stressed, not good, upset, bored, we put food in to self-soothe, to self-regulate. Like food is it's comfort. So it's like, okay, I'm okay. I'm not gonna die. I have food. Psychologically, there's like a thing there, and so that's how we take care of ourselves with the food.
Yeah.
Everything that anything like, let me take care of it with food. And the more physiological side of that is also that sometimes we confuse the hunger cues, right? Like we're thirsty, but we think we're hungry, so we're constantly eating. Meanwhile, we're actually thirsty. Those cues are very hard to distinguish sometimes.
Yep, they are.
Yeah, so many things. I hear you. So so it's like so much nuance to all of this, right? Because we could talk about the food, the hydration, the exercise, the sleep, the relaxing. We didn't even touch on that yet. Like all the pillars for wellness, and each one of them has like a zillion little parts. Like you go granular to the with this, right? And it could be overwhelming. So the thing is, like, I love what you said much earlier, to just focus on, like, take it easy, like one or two things, and just consistency, and nice and steady wins the race, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so the next thing that we want to touch on was that the body is an interconnected system. So it's not just a little body just here, and if I do this, everything's perfect. So tell us
Right.
more about what you're thinking about that.
Well, some of the things that I've been learning with some of the specialists is I've had people that have come on and talked about specific types of alternative lifestyles. I guess it's the best way to describe it.
Mm,
Looking at functional medicine or looking at something like Ayurveda,
mm,
which has been around a lot
yes.
longer than we know about.
Mhm.
But what all of these do is they look at the body as a whole. And we tend to focus more on just the one thing that we think is wrong.
Right.
Well, I'm fat, so I'll just fix that and everything will be fine. Where it might be that other parts of our lives could be affecting that particular area. We talked about emotional eating, where how we interact with other people, how we interact with TV. That's part of that holistic approach. And, how we feed our bodies, how we feed our minds, and how we treat our body and minds kind of has to be looked at from a whole perspective. There is a show that I listen to that I'm trying to get her on the show, where she's talked about this low tox lifestyle, where, yes, there's a lot of things in our food that are making our body unhealthy, but
Yes.
there's a lot of things in our environment where some people have this weird association with smells or touches
Mm,
or sounds. It's hard for me to put it in words, But I've learned from all of these practices that you have to look at the body as a whole because the symptom that we have might be caused by something completely different than what we think it is. So that's one of the things that I haven't quite grasped it yet, but I'm learning that we have to look at our body in a multidimensional, holistic way.
I love that. At first I thought you were going to say, okay, so if my stomach hurts, I have something wrong with my stomach, right? Or if I have headaches, okay, something's wrong with my brain, right? And then, but there might be other things like what you're putting in your body, what are you eating, or maybe hormones are off, or maybe other neurochemicals are off, or whatever. There might be other things going on in your body that are creating symptoms in particular organs or parts of your body. So I thought that's where you were going. But then when you suggested like, well, it's not just the body's part of everything else too. Like there's a whole context to your life. It's not just your body.
Yeah.
So that is so beautiful. That's a fantastic way of looking at this, right? Because usually when something's wrong with the body, it's not, well, it manifests as a physical thing, but that's the end product. There's all of the other things that probably affected it in the first place. Correct? So I
Yeah.
love that the whole thing with emotions definitely they get stuck in the body. There's all kinds of things going on, interrelational things, stress, like all kinds of things. They show up as symptoms in the body, right? And I love that. So from your side, when you're looking at it holistically like that, any thoughts on what systems are impacting the body as far as from your own experience for yourself or things that you have heard from your guests?
So, I mean, I've heard a lot of things that I have not yet experienced myself. So, uh, I'm in the process of trying to figure out, am I going to go and get tested and figure out, you mentioned hormones.
Hmm.
There are things when it comes to hormones and vitamin deficiencies and all of those things that we just don't think of
Right.
that we may need to go and find out, okay, is our body deficient in one of these areas? And yeah, sometimes it might be change your diet to get those deficiencies. Sometimes it's something where we might actually need to get medical help to get that deficiency taken care of. There was another story um, that I mentioned the smell. Uh, so there was a lady that got helped by one of my people. I haven't had them on the show yet, so I'm not going to say their name, but she was telling me the story of somebody that for years would have these headaches, not at work, not out and about, but at
Mhm.
home. And they could not figure out why until somebody came in and started looking at their environment.
Hmm.
It turns out that they had been getting these candles for years. And every night they would go home and light candles because they loved the smell.
Yep.
And it turns out these particular candles were triggering something in their body and giving them pain.
Wow.
And it got the candles removed, the headaches went away. I mean, it's weird that we would hear something like that, and most of us would think, "Come on, really? Candles?"
I believe you. There's
But but there are things in candles now that probably shouldn't be in candles. I mean, vanilla doesn't become a candle
right.
naturally.
That's right. Oh, absolutely. They have um I'm forgetting the name for them. So, but yeah, definitely there's stuff in candles that you're not supposed to be inhaling. So there's a healthier version of candles that you're
Right.
supposed if you love candles you could get. There's all the things in all of the places. It could be a rabbit hole, man. Let me tell you, a rabbit hole. Very good. So, for overall health, for overall well being, any recommendations for have a holistic approach to your life, to your approach to health and wellness?
In terms of an overall approach, I think the last thing I mentioned, just looking at your body as a whole is not only a good place to start, but something that you have to revisit over and over again and be I was trying to think of this word before you started recording, but, um, you know, be more accepting of yourself.
Compassionate?
That's a good word, yes.
Accepting?
And, you know, we don't have to look perfect
Right.
to be healthy and live happy, which are the mantras of my show. The thing is to be healthy, you know, and be happy.
Mhm.
So I may not have to look like I did 20 years ago in order to feel like I did 20 years ago.
Mhm.
So I need to adapt some things while adjusting others. And being able to realize that it's not just the body, it's also the mind, it's also the spirit,
Right.
the soul. All of those things play a combined role in what we do.
Yeah, exactly. So have you integrated any habits yet? I don't mean to put you on the spot. And if not, what are you thinking about integrating in terms of for the mind, for mind health, mental health, and for spiritual health or spiritual well-being? Because mind,
So,
body, and spirit, right?
right.
So the body you're working in whatever the two other areas to bring it full circle. Have you given them any thought yet?
Well, I'll tell you the things that I've already done
Okay,
actively.
perfect. Yes.
So, you know, in addition to adjusting, you know, what I eat, the diet
Mhm.
part of it, adjusting my schedule
Yes.
so that I'm not working, you know, those 12, 14, 16 hours,
Mhm.
that I'm getting my sleep, but also what am I doing during those daytime hours? More breaks during the workday so that I can simply give my body a chance to just, you know, settle for a
Yeah.
few minutes, get a little bit of recharge, and then go again.
Mhm.
Now, I've not done anything with regards to meditation or anything like that, but finding times to rest within the workday has been huge. And I think it alleviates some of the stress. Um, the mind part of it is just like, this is going to sound horrible to some people, but I think most will get it. The type of work that I do,
Mm.
if something doesn't happen, nobody's going to die. So it sounds harsh, but I'm just an IT guy. And yes, a computer may crash, a mouse may break, a piece of software doesn't
That
go
feels
the
like
way
the
it
end of
is.
the world, Marv, when that happens,
It
okay?
does.
It
And
feels like death.
everybody, they call and, you know, I've got to get this done or, you know, and most of the times I have to just stop myself and say, okay, what's the worst thing that would happen if we can't get this fixed right away?
Right. For
Most of
sure.
the time, it's not as big as they thought. Now, granted, there are some times where I've got a project that I've got to get done in 5 minutes. I work with a lot of attorneys. So, of course, everything is critical to them. Got to get it to the judge right now.
Mhm.
Um, but I do what I can and I don't stress myself out about it. And if I can get it done, great. If not, I'm not going to beat myself up because at the end of the day, nobody's going to die.
Mm. Yes, that's what a beautiful idea of, like, taking life in stride, right? Like, not being so serious about the little things. Like, most of it is not a matter of life and death, and most of it can wait a couple more minutes or another day or a couple of hours or whatever it is. And if we were to take that stock and kind of like give ourselves perspective on whatever's freaking us out in the moment, most of it is like not a big deal, right?
Right.
Most of the things are not big deals. Even the biggest trigger, the biggest offense by your partner usually is not a big deal, usually, right? There are things that people do, but for the most part, most things in our life we could take a step back and be like, it's gonna be okay, right? And if we could be gentle with ourselves and the thing that's happening, then we'll operate better and take care of it easier and better at
Yeah.
the end of the day anyway, right? I love it. Yeah, that's a great stress management technique, giving yourself some perspective so that you don't so you don't take yourself on a ride and freak yourself out for no reason.
Right.
I love that. Perfect. And so what are some things that you're thinking of adding to your whole journey here? Any cool habits that you think you'll be integrating in the near future? What are the things that are kind of having you curious?
Uh, so I can tell you what the wife would love for me to do
Okay, let's start there.
is take more vacations.
Sure.
Um, and the types of vacations where the computer doesn't go with,
Mm,
so that while I'm away, work is away completely. Because we have a tendency as IT people that regardless of where we are, because we can work remotely,
right.
anything that comes up, we're going to stop what we're doing and try to take care of it. So again, that separation and allowing for things to just happen. Um, Obviously, there needs to be a backup in place to where if I can't take care of it, somebody can.
Of course, yeah.
So that's probably one of the big things. We are we're committed to start, I believe, next week or the week after to clean eating.
Okay.
So it's a little more of a departure than what most people are used to, where we're looking at all the aspects of whether it's organic or gluten free or GMO. I mean, it's looking at all of those things and finding out, okay, how clean can we eat
Hmm.
and still enjoy what we eat?
Right. Yeah, that's a big journey, right? You know, stuff like I said before, for each thing, you could like there's so much nuance, right? So many things that can be done for each thing. So that's a great approach, like removing all of the toxicity from our food to begin with,
Yeah.
right? And then anything that's inflammatory, like we said also earlier, everybody's different. So gluten doesn't sit well with me. Dairy, not so much also. So some things I have cleaned from my diet, but there's other things like shellfish, peanuts, soy. There's like all like there's like a few things that are really inflammatory. Eggs, like some things that just people say, like people who eat really, really, really clean, just don't eat any of this inflammatory food, right? So when you start removing all that stuff, then it becomes really challenging. Okay, so what do I eat?
Yep.
And so it's a matter of like finding a healthy version and then not an inflammatory version. That's what keeps the weight stuck a little bit, like when we're eating food that inflames the body, right? So the body's not optimally functioning to cleansing itself and digesting and getting all the nutrients. But yeah, so kudos to you and and the wife for taking on that big goal. I like it.
That's a big goal.
That's a nice one. Very good.
Yeah.
All right, Marvin, any last minute um offers to the audience, like a message, like an inspiration for them to go be not unhealthy?
Well, the biggest thing I would probably say is the premise of my show. At first, I thought was to just document my journey and figure out what worked, but it's turning into this journey of finding out what is unhealthy, regardless of what it is, and reducing or eliminating it,
Mhm.
whether it's, the diet, the exercise, because again, just because you're doing something that you think is healthy, it may not be. Some people exercise in an unhealthy way.
Yep.
We eat a lot of times in an unhealthy way. We have relationships in an unhealthy way. And all of that plays a role into what we do. So the concept now has been find all the things that are unhealthy and either reduce or eliminate them and replace them with something that is healthy.
I love it. I'm going to put you on the spot since you mentioned relationships. You gotta be careful what you ask for, Emma. But any thoughts on things that you know to remove from relationships that are unhealthy? What would you
To,
offer our
to
audience?
remove. Um, so probably the one thing to remove would
Mhm.
be our image of what we think the perfect relationship is.
Oh, look at you. See, there's wisdom there.
So, some of the work that I've done with one of the guests on the show has been to look at when we started our relationships, what was it that we expected from
Mm,
the other person? along with what is it that we expect to provide them in the relationship. So that has been now, just to give listeners a perspective, I've been married to my wife now 20 years.
Yay.
I've known her for 27. And I'm not going to say it's perfect, but we've gone through those times where it's like, well, you're not listening to me and you're not taking this seriously. But when you step back and think about, okay, what is it that we expect? Did we tell the other person that we expected that?
Exactly.
Did we ask them what they should expect of us? So it's been an interesting thing now to kind of sit here, 20 years into a marriage, as if we're starting over to be like, okay, when I when I say this to you, what does it really mean?
Oh gosh, music to my ears. Yes, right. And also, I love that you said, "What are they? What can they expect from me?" But also, do I know what their expectation of me is? Like they might expect things I don't even know, right? And I could
Yep.
very easily do those things. It's not no skin off my back. It's reasonable, but I just don't know, and I'm letting you down over and over because I don't know,
Right.
right?
Or you should know. I'm not going to tell you. You should just know.
Don't even get me started with that. Yes, you should might read me because if you love me, you would know.
Right.
Yeah,
If I read minds, maybe.
yeah. Very good. Terrific. So a lot of wisdom in there. And I love that you're on this journey. And I am so proud for you for having all these amazing guests that you're bringing on for your own journey, for your own learning. And then you're sharing that because a lot of us do that on the side for ourselves, right? But we don't create a platform or context where we could share what we're learning with others. So I definitely subscribe to that idea. And I commend anybody else who does as well. So I love it that you're on that journey and that you're as you're learning, you're sharing it. So that's amazing. So kudos.
Well, I'm sharing it, and then I'm also sharing the voices of the people that are coming on the show.
Right.
A lot of them are in the midst of their own journey where they're finding out what works for them, and you know, some of them are, coaches themselves, and
Mhm.
so they're looking for people that they can share their knowledge with. So, along with sharing my journey, I'm sharing a platform for them so that they can, get the word out about what's worked for them and basically try to help each other out.
Yeah, exactly. What I meant to say. Maybe I didn't say it fully right. That in your journey, you're also bringing in your learnings, like the people that are helping you learn, right? So that's so good. It's like a win-win-win,
Right.
right? They get to share. You are learning. You're sharing with others. Other people are learning. So beautiful. So
Yeah.
amazing. So good. Perfect. So, Marvin, why don't you share with our audience where they could find you? Tell them more about this podcast and like your social media, or rather just the podcast, and then I'll put the links in the show notes.
Well, everything starts with the website. So unhealthypodcast.com. And
Perfect.
on there, you'll find the past episodes that I've done. You'll also find all the links and a contact page where they can reach out to me.
Fabulous. Amazing, mister. Thank you so much for sharing time with me. A pleasure having you on and learning from you and hearing your wisdom and about how your journey is going. So fun. Thank you again for being here.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, and good journeys to you as well.
Thank you. And to the listeners, until the next one. Bye.